I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel praises Trump's decision to decertify the Iran nuclear deal. Palestinian unity becomes a shocking reality. And grab some popcorn because we've got the scoop on Israel's revolutionary new movie theaters. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. President Trump has just dropped a bombshell and has announced that he will not recertify the Iran nuclear deal in a major reversal of American policy. The decision, which now gives Congress just 60 days to make the next move, has ignited fierce controversy all over the world.
Based on the factual record I have put forward, I am announcing today that we cannot and will not make this certification. We will not continue down a path whose predictable conclusion is more violence, more terror, and the very real threat of Iran's nuclear breakout. That is why I am directing my administration to work closely with Congress and our allies to address the deal's many serious flaws so that the Iranian regime can never threaten the world with nuclear weapons.
Here in Israel, however, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has congratulated Trump on his courageous decision to reevaluate the deal, even though it goes against the warnings of most of the world's leaders, as well as Trump's own top officials.
President Trump has just created an opportunity to fix this bad deal, to roll back Iran's aggression, and to confront its criminal support of terrorism. That's why Israel embraces this opportunity, and that's why every responsible government and any person concerned with the peace and security of the world should do so as well.
Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have joined Israel in backing the move, while France, Germany, Russia, and the UK are leading the chorus of voices against Trump's decision. They warn that U.S. sanctions may topple the deal and actually give Iran the upper hand. Meanwhile, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has condemned the shift in U.S. policy, calling Trump's speech full of lies, insults, and dangerous accusations.
آمریکا در برابر یک تعهد چند جانبه بین المللی موضع گرفت و بلا فاصله کشورهای بزرگ دنیا و اتحادیه اروپا در برابر آمریکا موضع گرفت. آمریکا امروز تنهاتر از همیشه در برابر برجام، تنهاتر از همیشه در برابر توطئه‌هاش علیه ملت ایرانه.
Congress now has 60 days to reimpose sanctions on Iran, as Trump has demanded, or will have to reconceive the deal and reach an agreement with all of the parties involved. This will undoubtedly be a daunting task for the divided American Congress, but the stakes here are huge, which means they'll need to work fast. Joining us now to discuss U.S. President Donald Trump's major blow to the Iran nuclear deal is Dr. Moledahye Cadell, who served for over 25 years in the IDF military intelligence. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
So, does the U.S. Congress have grounds to change this deal?
Of course. They have a lot of information about Iran's attempts to acquire materials which definitely show that they are continuing with a military nuclear program.
Well, I guess the larger question here is, what will the ramifications of Trump's speech have on the Middle East as a whole now?
Well, it all depends on the credibility of what he said. Because so far we heard words, speeches. Now, in the Middle East, people look for the actions. What real actions will be taken in sanctions, in all kinds of maybe military actions against Iranian mercenaries, like in Yemen or in Syria or in Iraq, as some kind of a grip which starts to fasten itself around the necks of the Ayatollahs, and at the end of the day, maybe even a hit against Iran in order to show Iran who is here the owner of the place.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Iran and Israel. You know, do you think that Iran has now somehow been emboldened to ignore the American threats that it's received and pursue even more violent means towards Israel?
I don't think so, because the Iranians, actually the speech of Rouhani expresses fear. They are afraid because they start thinking that America does not want to be anymore a paper tiger as it became through the last 9 years by President Obama. Now they are afraid that America really means business, and they have to act in a way which will not aggravate the Americans too much. After all, don't forget that the United States intelligence organizations have all the evidence needed in order to show Trump the connection between North Korea and Iran, well, especially when it comes to nuclear issues and missiles, ballistic missiles.
Now, we're seeing, like in the story beforehand, that Netanyahu is, putting his support behind President Trump, but not all Israeli officials are on board. How do Israeli officials view Trump's move? For the most part, Minister of Intelligence Affairs, Israel Katz, recently mentioned that such a move could lead to a war. What is your take on that?
Look, a war is bad, but the worst is a nuclear war. So if it means today entering some kind of a war without nukes in Iran, it is much better than entering a war in 10 years or even less with Iran when Iran has nuclear weapons. So this is why war, although it is a bad thing, yet it might be a good step in the near future rather than a bad step in the far future.
Right, but not all Israeli security experts are on board with just eliminating this deal. What do you think, in a very short answer because we're running out of time, is the best move to make in regards to stopping Iran from gaining nuclear power?
First of all, sanctions, political sanctions and economic sanctions, and if it doesn't work, yet to hit the facilities of Iran or the nuclear facilities. This is essential.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us,
Pleasure.
Dr. Cadell. Well, we've been speculating about this for weeks, but now it's officially a done deal. Hamas and the Palestinian Authority have just signed a historic reconciliation deal in Egypt, meaning their decade-long rivalry has finally come to an end. In a shocking show of good faith, Hamas has even handed over control of the Gaza Strip to President Abbas's Fatah government.
أولا اليوم هو يوم جديد ندشن وحدة وطنية حقيقية، بداية الطريق على إنجاز ملف المصالحة والوحدة بشكل كامل. يوم تاريخي يستحق الشعب الفلسطيني أن يرى فتح وحماس وجميع القوى موحدين تحت خيمة واحدة عنوانها العلم الفلسطيني بألوانه الأربع فوق كل الأحزاب الأعلام الحزبي.
The news has been met with cautious optimism across the Palestinian world, especially in Gaza, where the PA's siege of the Strip has reduced the situation to nearly unlivable conditions. While the newly unified Palestinian government could breathe new life into a two-state solution, it also puts Israel in a difficult position. That's because one of the biggest issues yet to be resolved is Hamas's armed military wing, which consists of 25,000 troops that are committed to annihilating the Jewish state. Prime Minister Netanyahu, along with many Israelis, remains cautious about what a unified Palestinian government could mean for Israel, and has called for all parties to recognize Israel's right to exist if these summons for peace are to be believed.
כל מי שמדבר על תהליך שלום צריך קודם כל לדבר על כך שצריך להכיר במדינת ישראל, מדינת העם היהודי. שלום מחייב הכרה במדינת ישראל, מדינת הלאום של העם היהודי. אנחנו לא מעוניינים בפיוס מדומה שבו הפלגים הפלסטינים מתפייסים אחד עם השני על חשבון הקיום שלנו.
In light of Netanyahu's words, Arab media is actually reporting that Hamas has just pledged to halt all attacks against Israelis currently in the West Bank, in hopes of keeping the deal on track. And not only that, but both sides have allegedly promised not to escalate violence with Israel or rock the boat politically. There's still a lot left on the table that's yet to be resolved, but for now, the world is settling in for the new reality of Palestinian unity. On top of refusing to recertify the Iran nuclear deal, President Trump actually dropped another bombshell over the holiday weekend. announcing that the U.S. is withdrawing from UNESCO. The White House is calling out the United Nations' top cultural organization for its alleged history of anti-Israel bias, and the decision has taken most of the world by surprise.
Two main issues prompted our decision. One was mounting arrears, which have been mounting since 2011 when this organization admitted Palestine as a member state. That amount in arrears is essentially unsustainable. Second issue, unfortunately, this venue has become politicized, undermining the work of UNESCO across its mandate. It's become a venue for anti-Israel bias. And unfortunately, we are taking the decision to withdraw from UNESCO at this time.
Moments later, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu threw his support behind Trump's decision and announced that Israel would follow America's lead to withdraw from UNESCO immediately as well. UNESCO has made several controversial decisions seen as anti-Israel in the past, most recently when it denied any Israeli claim to the city of Jerusalem and declared the old city of Hebron a Palestinian World Heritage Site. However, many have been quick to point out that the decision to withdraw may have financial reasons as well. That's because both the U.S. and Israel actually lost their voting rights in UNESCO years ago after failing to pay millions of dollars in membership dues to the United Nations. A day after the shocking announcement, UNESCO's appointed French former culture minister Audrey Azoulay as its new leader, a woman of Jewish Moroccan descent. And get this, among her first words to the council was a plea asking both the United States and Israel not to leave the organization at this critical moment in history.
Et dans ce moment de crise, je crois qu'il faut plus que jamais s'impliquer dans l'UNESCO, la soutenir, chercher à la renforcer et à la réformer, et non pas la quitter.
Well, it looks like her words may be falling on deaf ears. American Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, has just warned that the U.S. is re-evaluating its ties with other UN organizations, hinting that this latest departure may merely be the start of a new trend in American foreign policy. So what kind of impact will the United States leaving UNESCO have on Israel? Joining us with some answers is a former Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Giller. Ambassador Giller, thank you so much for coming in.
Good to be here.
Yes, well, this is not a lovely topic, to say the least. The United States leaving the UNESCO committee does initially seem to be a positive move for Israel, but in your opinion, is it?
I'm not a great fan of Israel or the United States leaving international organizations. I think we should strive to be a member in every international organization. I think we should be for inclusion rather than exclusion. And I think that in a way, for both Israel and the United States to leave UNESCO is in a way isolating Israel rather than isolating UNESCO. You have to understand that, I mean, having said that, I was at the UN when Ambassador John Bolton, who at the time represented the US, and me were the only two who decided not to join the newly formed Human Rights Committee,
right.
Which came instead of the Human Rights Council. We knew that this was a monster being born. We didn't want anything to do with it. But we didn't leave it. We just didn't join it to start with. I think that, in a way, leaving international organizations, and as Nikki Haley says, this may only be the beginning, is in a way playing into the hands of the Palestinians. They're being accepted, they're being included, and we are leaving. So who is winning?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point to make. But what's also interesting is that UNESCO has just gotten its first Jewish director, and that happened just one day after the U.S. left this committee for anti-Israel bias. Now, will this have any impact, in your opinion, on how Israel is treated by the committee, or does it not really matter?
Well, first of all, as far as I know, both the US and Israel have announced that they will leave at the end of 2018, which gives them another year, nearly a year and a half, and things may happen. And I think the election of Audrey Azoulay is very, very good news. I know her family intimately. Her father, Andre, and her mother, Katya, are the best friends Israel could ever wish for. They were very, very close friends of Shimon Peres. Andre Azoulay, who is the closest advisor to the King of Morocco, who was advisor to King Hassan and is now advisor to King Mohammed, is on the board of the Paris Center for Peace. They are devoted friends of Israel, and Audrey comes from that family and has that blood. So she will do everything she can to change the culture.
But I guess the question is, how much of an impact can she actually have? Because at the end of the day, it's really the member states who are making these votes, right?
Exactly. You're so right. I mean, you know, I remember being told very soon after I came to the UN by Richard Holbrooke, who was one of the world's greatest diplomats and also the US ambassador to the UN, when I complained about a diplomatic fiasco at the UN. And he said to me, Danny, remember, the UN is a building on First Avenue. It's only as good as its tenants, and its tenants are the world we live in. And to accuse the UN of a diplomatic fiasco is like, you know, accusing Madison Square Garden when the Knicks don't perform well. It's got nothing to do with the building. It's the members, it's the world we live in. And I don't think that by, you know, leaving it, we are doing anything positive. You know, the Secretary General, both of the UN and of UNESCO, has some power, but it cannot change the world. So I think that Audrey Azoulay will do her best to try and change the agenda, to maybe, you know, be more proactive in setting the schedule and the agenda but I don't think she can have a profound influence on totally changing the policy.
Well, we're going to have to just wait and see, I guess, and hopefully for our next interview with you, we can discuss what else is going to happen in regards to the U.S. leaving more organizations in the United Nations. Thank you so much for coming in, Ambassador.
Thank you.
You may not know it, but Israel is home to over 135,000 Ethiopian Jews, and just a year ago, yet another group of Ethiopian immigrants made their way into Israel. But there's still a lot to be done when it comes to promoting the Ethiopian inclusion into the Jewish community. And joining us to discuss this very issue is Shmuel Legasa, an Ethiopian-Israeli international community activist and educator. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
So Shmuel, I gave a couple of quick facts about the Ethiopian Jewish community, but can you tell us a little bit more about its presence here in Israel?
Yes, Ethiopian Jewish community, it's over, I can say, over 35,000 in Israel, and our young generation is fast, it's growing, and also there are a lot of Jewish yet to come back to in Ethiopia, and our Ethiopian Jewish has long historical roots to our Jewish identity, and comparing many Jewish all over the world, and we have the similar history, but ours is very old. And
not many people know about this existing Ethiopian Jewish community either, from abroad. We know Israelis living here that, there are over 135,000 Ethiopian Jews living here. We see Ethiopian Jews on the street, but the rest of the world is not so aware of this community. But, there's still a lot of steps that need to be taken in terms of integrating the Ethiopian Jewish community into Israeli society. Would you say that the Ethiopian community is properly integrated right now?
Yes, there is a problem integration. Any new community comes in any kind of country, and especially when there is no much of lifestyle and there is a difficulties. Also, in addition to that, we have, some kind of racial discrimination. That's fact and real. But at the same time, we can't deny there is a lot of good steps are taken.
Right.
But the world and the international community need to know that Israel is not some kind of a white nation that other people think. No, Israel is inclusion of many kind of peoples, like me, like you, like any other one. And due to that fact, Israel is a land for black and white and all people. And
well, that's also why, you see so many activists who are freely speaking up about ongoing discrimination that exists here against the Ethiopian community. Police violence, like you said, there is racism just like in any country.
Yeah, even in America.
Right.
Even in America.
Right.
Until now.
Well, what is being done to address this?
I myself, personally, I am not satisfied with the action that is taken. For example, Bibi Netanyahu, our Rosh Hashanah, our president, our prime minister, they organized a new Vaad or committee that will deal with this situation.
Right.
And the committee even did a special investigation about the issue, and they come up with 50 or 70 points, but the action still need to be taken more. The inclusion in education, professional integration. And we Ethiopian Jews, we are a social capital for the state of Israel.
Absolutely. We could have you come in and talk about this for ages. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we would love to have you come back into the studio to talk more about this issue in the future. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
There's nothing like watching a good movie curled up on the couch with your friends and family. Well, what if you could do that in a movie theater? It turns out you can here in Israel, and ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh has the scoop.
We could be watching in the same room, the same movie. I would hear the movie in Spanish and you would choose English, others would choose Russian.
Did I just hear that correctly? Same movie, two different languages? Let's rewind for a moment. Let me introduce you to the MovX concept.
What we're trying to do basically is to reinvent public screening, is to allow people to enjoy content with their friends and families when they're having fun, when they're going out. What Netflix has done to watching movies at home, we're trying to do to watching movies outside.
The MovX concept is able to transform any public space, either indoor or outdoor, into a smart cineplex for the public to enjoy the experience.
Right here we have 14 different spaces and they're in different sizes, from a couple to people all the way through to 16. And people get to choose the content that they want to watch, when they want to watch it, and even the language that they want to listen to it. So you'll notice that the spaces are kind of open, because what we were trying to do here is let people actually be part of something bigger when they're watching the content they choose with their friends.
Using special technology that allows the audio to be separated from the video itself allows people to watch their movie in whatever language they choose. But like the hungry person that I am, I focus straight on the food.
There are so many studies that are showing that people actually love to eat and drink while they're watching content, and that's what we've done here. We've got a kitchen and a bar here. Everything is cooked here and is fresh and warm, and is being served to your space. So when you're watching the movie, you could hit a button and ask for a waiter, or you could actually order directly from the app. So you feel like another glass of wine, you just hit a button and voila, it shows up in your space.
MovX may just be here in the Holy Land for now, but don't worry your international minds for even a second, because they plan on going global.
Our plan is to expand globally. From here in Tel Aviv, we plan to move to New York, Berlin, London, all the big cities, and eventually the entire world, and allow everybody around the globe to enjoy this type of the MovX experience.
Yep, well, I'll just let that sink in for all of you. Now just plan your next trip to Tel Aviv and you and all your friends can come get the MovX experience firsthand. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go watch a movie now.
Enroll in eTeacher's online Hebrew courses and quickly discover that it creates the deepest connection to Israel that you could ever imagine.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. It's been a very busy holiday weekend, jam-packed with major headlines from all over the world. So today's word is amus, meaning loaded, burdened, or busy. Amus, or the feminine amusa, is a very handy adjective. You can use it to explain why you won't be making that meeting by saying ani amusa midai, meaning I'm too busy. You can describe the Israeli marketplaces of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem as amusim, or crowded. And you can even just say you're overloaded to the point of exhaustion by saying you're amus le'ayefa. Well, the good news is that if you're ever feeling amus, there's usually someone who can help split the work and deal with the load. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 65 or 18 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow will be clear to partly cloudy with a high of 79 or 26 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.5 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.